Hello there folks, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics like spirituality, introspection, game analysis from time to time, and well, usually spirituality and introspection. This video will be another one in the series that I call Wisdom Shorts, a series of videos in which I present things quite shortly instead of, making long seminars in which I present several topics and probably the video ends up looking all over the place. Now, the topic of this video is something that many people like doing, and it's something called helping, okay, helping others. Now, the topic of this video is also gonna be, this probably I will keep up with a series on this, which will be called self-analysis. Now, the purpose of this video and this channel specifically will be to help people become better and to realize certain things and become more introspective, because that's kind of the main purpose of this, instead of just providing some plain information. There are many people who do this, and unfortunately, people kind of forget that introspection is also playing a very important role. Now, self-analysis is also very important, and as I've been saying, if one studies their mind and the way it works, the thoughts that pop up in one's mind and the templates that they seem to be deploying in their life, that is important, because the mind, as I've been saying, is a tool that's most needed for survival, and it will only create thoughts based on what it has been fed with, what you have been seeing, what you have been hearing, touching, sensing, and etc., because everything one interacts with is basically information, and upon getting in contact with it, it is downloaded automatically within us. Now, the point is, and one of the trickiest things to do in life, is how one reacts to that information, because that information will definitely be downloaded, and the unconscious mind will always record that. What this means is, the unconscious mind of any person is basically the black box of one's existence. As we may know, when an aircraft falls, okay, and crashes, unfortunately, there is this black box inside of each aircraft, which is the first thing that, the people who come and investigate, okay, they will always go for the black box, because that holds all the information that will be crucial to discovering the causes of the crash. So the unconscious mind fulfills that role. Now, the mind, as I've been saying, will always come up with ideas based on what it has been picking, okay? And unfortunately, 95% of our behavior kind of remains unconscious for most people, because we are not trained how to use the greater potential of our mind and simply turn our life more and more conscious. So if 95% of our existence we choose to let it unconscious, we're mostly letting situations, okay, take hold and basically rule our life, okay? When we let circumstances rule our life, that is, well, as I say, the foundation for victimization, because it supports even more some principles that religion may trigger, wanted or unwanted, okay? The aspect that one is simply helpless in the face of, fate, let's say, okay? And many people believe that life is, something already pre-written. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. There is no proof towards that other than, pure imagination, because people believe that they can understand the entirety of life through the power of the mind. But if life is represented by 114 chakras in our own body, and the mind is represented by the three lower chakras of the body only, if people think that through three chakras they can understand the whole world, which is 114 chakras, they're in for some very awkward surprises, because the mind is simply like a computer. You can upgrade its components, but it will still be limited compared to the vastness of the universe. Now, when it comes to helping, okay, and the mind, both can also be used as very good self-diagnosis tools. Why I'm saying this is because self-diagnosis is very important. Through self-diagnosis, someone can realize how much damage they have taken or how well they are basically according to some societal norms. Again, self-diagnosis is not something that anyone can do because it requires some great sense of grounding in this world, some great awareness, because you also have to conduct some healthy comparison with others, because you have to compare yourself with, well, to a certain point, unfortunately, how society is meant to be run, and that also may include some of its awkward parts, okay? Like, submitting to the law and such, but to a certain extent, the law is meant to keep some order, even if, well, it's kind of more and more obvious that there are certain groups of people who have certain agendas to have a control over, well, humanity as a whole. Now, when it comes to helping is a very good aspect and will be triggered by something which we humans call empathy. Okay, now empathy is something that exists within animals also, but humans can make use of their empathy from a conscious point. Okay, animals can use their empathy also, but you have to understand one principle. And this principle is very important to know, especially if you want to become more introspective, okay? Everything that you do has at least a tiny bit of an egotistical aspect to it, okay? Everything that you do for a certain result. Okay, this is not something that you can bypass unless someone becomes truly introspective and truly open to greater forces of this universe. Okay, because if people live in the vibration of the mind, they will always live in something which I call the survival. Okay, the three levels of survival are represented easily by the three lower chakras that the mind represents. First of all is the survival of the individual, which is basically the most important, okay, the root chakra. Then one has the survival of, well, the persona, okay. Now, the survival of the persona in a way, or the survival, or what I call basically social survival. Okay, now social survival is represented by the second chakra, your relationship with others, your relationship with groups, and well with your kin, and also the other animals as well. Okay, this is very important because shame usually has a very bad habit of manifesting around here, and people end up usually victimizing and using all sorts of excuses that they are shy and all these little petty thoughts that keep people in a vibration lower than this, usually in the main survival, right, survival of the self, as if collaborating or communicating with others is detrimental to their own existence. Okay, and then one has this, basically it is the survival of the self, okay, the third chakra, the so-called throne of the ego, okay, the throne of the mind. Now, this chakra is in a way important because people have to do things in life, and as they do, they will always require a certain ego to do something. You will always require a certain, let's call it persona, okay, or a certain mask when you do something, not because necessarily of the fear of someone, but when you speak to a certain friend, you behave in a certain way, okay. It is part of socializing because you adapt your own behavior, okay, so that you maintain, a healthy boundary or certain aspects, okay. Behind all of these, there is also an aspect of survival, okay, and there is also a need. Because if people live in these three chakras, there is always a need because these three chakras represent survival. So ultimately, everything that you are taking into account when in survival mode is basically taken into account as a tool, okay? As a tool for your survival. You need your friends because, well, you feel that if boredom overcomes you, you will probably feel like you're dying, okay? You're always running from something, okay? You're behaving well in front of your teachers because, again, it's the survival of the persona, okay? You have this idea of a certain reputation, okay? You're the either that good student that you want to preserve and you want to preserve your reputation in front of your teacher, or you're that student that the teacher apparently doesn't like, and I say apparently because it might be in your head, or well, it can be real, and the teacher may not like you, and you are fighting, okay, so you are trying again to survive against a certain aspect, okay, like basically you're the teacher's bully, or you're bullied in a way, emotionally at least, by a teacher, and you want to survive that, okay? It's also another aspect of survival. So as long as you are using the mind, you'll always be using meaning, and meaning is a self-destruction button in the end, because if you employ too much meaning, you can twist your mind in so many ways that you will kind of forget what reality truly is like, okay? So when you help others, it is important that you don't help others from this premise of these three chakras, because you will place more emphasis on your survival than on actually helping someone. If you grow beyond the mind and the necessity to simply survive, okay, when you bypass those and you go beyond that, well, you will start actually helping people without truly expecting something in return. Now, while the expectation may still exist in there, okay, because an expectation will always be present, okay, the main important thing is that you don't react to your thoughts and to the things that manifest in your mind, because as I've been saying, your mind is simply comprised of literally everything you came across. All people's uh, behaviors, all people's thoughts, aspects, emotions, and as such. So if 90% at least of your emotions and your thoughts do not belong to yourself, then basically you are not your mind. Okay, you are not your mind, you are not your thoughts, and basically you are not your emotions. You have to understand that in life one is nothing else than a recording camera. The mind is nothing else than the hard drive that things are simply put in, and well, that's it. The problem with us compared to a camera is that we instinctively attach too much importance, okay, of cognizance and emotional type, okay? We place too much meaning, okay, of both mental and emotional state, okay, to things, okay, to people and such. Be it that we do it in a good way or in a bad way, right? Narcissistic people will always abuse others, okay, because they have been abused, and they will never choose to go beyond, or very rarely might struggle, trying to go beyond that aspect of abuse, which keeps them in a highly, survival state. Okay, they have those personas. They have, you see, as I see narcissistic people, they are like a shuttle trying to desperately escape from a black hole. Okay, but black holes aren't like you see in movies. Okay, they don't have one single force that pulls you around. Their gravitational pull simply pulls things in all possible directions. So imagine how desperate a crew must be to simply bypass all those, contrasting forces at times, right? So the black hole is basically what we each and every one of us are. Okay, and to a certain extent, narcissistic people are the most aware that basically we are nothing, because every meaning that we put within us is nothing else than a self-destruction button. Okay, and being aware that they are nothing, narcissistic people want to be uh, observed, so they have to create so many masks. Okay, now when helping people, first of all, it is very important that one conducts, self-diagnosis from time to time, and one conducts a lot of introspection, because helping people is very nice, but in many cases it can be detrimental, especially if you are thinking from a perspective of the mind and therefore of survival, because most likely you will want to help people because to a certain extent it makes you feel good. And, well, we all have to admit, helping other people always fills you with a certain emotion. Now, the problem is, if you are doing that helping other people, okay, for the sake of this emotion, okay, then you have basically become a little emotional yandere, okay. Now, a yandere is basically an aspect of, highly aggressive attachment. Okay, now many people have this silly impression, this childish impression that the yandere is all about their so-called senpai. Okay, now this is very wrong because it kind of shows people don't go introspective enough. The yandere is a person who, like sociopathic people and narcissistic people, they suppress a lot of things, okay, including their emotion, which means basically they are dead on the inside. Because when you disconnect yourself from life, you are basically kind of an undead, okay? You don't feel anything, so that is why your life seems like you are technically dead, which kind of you are if you run away from your emotions and from your own thoughts, okay? Every problem that you have in life can only be addressed head on. Okay, if you run away from it, you're gonna just feed it because that's what ignorance means. You're taking everything into account without any remorse and at the same time without any discernment. So technically, you are like a black hole. You're accepting everything inside. And that's why you might feel like you have a lot of shit inside, and that's why you might also feel so heavy and at the same time so inexistent. And when you help others, okay, you have to understand that you don't want to end up in a sadomasochistic relationship. Now, this kind of relationship doesn't have to be sexual because a sadomasochistic relationship is nothing else than a relationship in which one loves giving and one loves receiving, okay? And all of these, okay, these two situations, again, only occur for the sake of the emotion. Exactly like the yandere. The yandere simply doesn't care much about the senpai. Okay, the yandere is highly interested in the emotions that senpai gets to manifest because they're constantly thinking about losing senpai. So think about this. Once you constantly think about losing something, once you have that thing, definitely you won't be thinking, hey, well, at least I finally got it, a chapter is over, let's move forward. No, once you have it, then the worries become even worse because of survival mechanisms. Now, finally, that you have something you've worked hard and you've fought a lot to achieve and to get, now suddenly the war becomes even greater because you might actually lose that, okay, once it is specifically yours. Again, it is specifically yours in your own mind because you don't own anyone, okay? So don't become little yanderes, okay, because it is not very healthy, okay? The aspect of a yandere is just emotional attachment, okay? If someone pops in their life and makes them even more alive than the person they have attached themselves to, they might actually jump to the next person. Although the point is, okay, they can establish such a powerful attachment that, well, basically nothing else exists. That is the downside of ignorance, because life is all about emotion. If you think about it, when you'll be on your deathbed and you draw the line and say, okay, what have I been doing with my life? Everything that you remember is your emotions. These little attachments towards things in your life will kind of dictate how you will perceive your life at the end of your existence. Because if you have been putting out more negative emotions, obviously you'll be thinking that your life has been a waste. And you will create all sorts of these regrets, okay, and constantly make them even worse because every time you think of something, you think of the last time you thought of that, not at the original time you thought of it. Okay, it's a psychological principle. And the reason why every time people think about something, they're making it worse and worse. So that's why simple things might appear as horrible to people after a certain period of thinking about it. Okay, that is why people have this innate ability to exaggerate things because they're constantly thinking about things and therefore they're adding more emotion to it. That is why they're making it heavier and it's annoying them more and more. And this is a sign that the mind simply wants to ditch it. Every time it pops up into your mind again, it wants to be liberated. But liberating yourself of thoughts can only be done by thinking about it without, okay, attaching any more emotion onto it. Therefore, without um, thinking about it, or better said, reacting to it. When you react to something, you're technically putting it back inside into your mind, okay? As I've been saying, your thoughts are just like shuttles that want to escape from the grasp of your mind, okay? The black holeness of your mind, okay? But when you react to those thoughts, you're technically pulling them back in, and that is why you're keeping so much negativity still inside of you. So when you help people, make sure that you are not doing it to your own detriment. Make sure that you're not helping people because it might give you some extra popularity, or it might give you some emotional fulfillment, okay? Because at the same time, a lot of people like taking, okay? And they just take and take, okay? So you have to adjust this aspect, okay? Within every one of us has, and naturally, there is a balance, okay, in between egotism and altruism, okay? You have to understand that this balance will never be 50-50, okay? Because when you're surrounded by narcissistic people and you want to be a 50-50 on this balance, then you're going to be probably stripped of life. Why? Because when you're surrounded by people who just take and take, you have to understand that your egotism has to become greater and greater. But at the same time, without you breaking yourself, okay? Because you don't have to fully shapeshift yourself. You just have to temporarily adapt. When you're surrounded by a lot of toxic people, you don't have to become another toxic people, because that makes a new problem, okay? You have to become a solution to situations, not another problem. Okay, because if 100 people argue and you also enter the arguments, then there's 101 persons that argue, right? So with people, you just have to make sure that you don't help them at your own detriment. Okay, some people are simply unconscious and they cannot realize the extent of their own unconsciousness and the extent of damage they can produce to other people. Okay, and well, there are a lot of people who just demand help, or play the damsel in distress, or all sorts of situations which will just beg for attention. And when people beg for attention, the main important thing about them is to teach them how to help themselves. Because if you constantly solve people's problems, okay, they will see you as a sucker, and they might actually cause newer problems so that you will help them again and again and again. Okay, they are what I call time stealers, okay, or temporal vampires, because they are basically feeding off of your own attention, and especially on your own time. Okay, because they might not know this, okay, that if they're, you know, making use of your time like this, they are basically feeding themselves. But if you want to help them, basically you have a better energy than them, okay? And just by being around them, okay, there is an energetic exchange. You take some of their shit and some of their traumas and some of their dramas, okay, and you give them in exchange some of your energy, because everything is functioning on a principle which I call the principle of 100%. Everything is 100%. So if you give 1% of your energy, you take 1% energy back. And that energy comes from the environment or from other persons. Okay? So that is why people who become more and more positive, okay, more and more stronger vibrational, they will innately feel an urge to be more and more alone. Okay? Now this usually without the excuses that they are shy and such, but at times one needs an excuse to run away from people, because people can and definitely are draining, okay? Now, with people that are draining, okay, this is kind of problematic, because um, if you're surrounded by them, you have to learn how to, handle your own energies, okay? And helping yourself is also a way of helping other people, at least indirectly. How this works, it's very simple. You cannot help others if you cannot help yourself in the first place. Think about all the people who just constantly ask for help, okay? They can't help themselves. Do you think they will actually help you? So, when you start helping people, Okay, also ask yourself how they can help you back. And not as a, egotistical expectation, but at the same time, think about this. You want to build healthy relationships with people that you can help, and it's not a competition of who helps the other one more. It's just a point that you can help someone several times, but at a certain time, you also may require some help. So you want healthy relationships in which you can definitely count on someone as well, because you can achieve things alone in this life, but it is always better when you achieve them with other people. And having healthy relationships is always a powerful thing, okay? So the point is, you may want to simply be able to help yourself, because if you don't help yourself, if you don't care about yourself, well, you might ruin your health slowly and surely. And well, if someone doesn't do well, they will to a certain extent be a hindrance to the others, because when someone has certain problems, they will pull other people down, because they will need well, more attention. If they need excessively more attention, well, probably they might actually do that on purpose. And well, there may actually be such people even in your own life, where they are just doing things on purpose. They pretend they cannot do certain things, and the awkward thing is that some people will pretend about this each and every day, each and every moment. That includes several times per day, and they might play stupid, they might do everything literally to simply draw your attention. Okay, why this? Well, again, because they are feeding off of your own energy. And it is even worse when people are conscious of this thing, because many of the people doing this are usually unconscious, but they are feeling good around the people they want to draw with such strategies. Okay, so learn how to help people, learn how to help yourself. All this being said, take care. You are loved and appreciated. Indeed, it feels good to be alive, and especially if you become more aware and conscious of your own self and your own awesomeness. Stay awesome, live bright, you are appreciated. Whatever you are doing is the best you can at the right pace for you. Take care, Ferinjan Board signing out.